C2 Wrestling Podcast. The boys are back. CTD and Snowden. So much to get into. Always something going on in the world of professional wrestling. SummerSlam has come and gone. We are on the road to Clash in Paris. There's rumors, there's speculations, there's rumblings, there's announcements. All of them irrelevant if we don't know how Snowden is doing today.
You said it. There's always something going on in the world of wrestling. There's always something going on with my health. I'm a little congested today, but we're going to get through it for this podcast. Another day in the life. How is CTD doing today?
I'm getting through. You and I have been texting. I've been
Yeah,
going through the motions a bit, but
yeah.
this is
It's
like the
life.
ultimate. This is the ultimate escape. This is the, you know, uh,
That's what we do this for.
yeah. This is the. We do it for fun, and it all makes sense for when you turn this on, and it's like, all right, I can just forget about the real world and how daunting life is.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Life is pretty daunting. Wrestling's pretty daunting as of late. A lot of circulation in the world of wrestling right now regarding a few topics that I'm sure we will get into today. I think we should just start with really the biggest topic right now. We discuss a little bit before each podcast. What do we want to talk about today? Sometimes we just wing it, but we're pretty aligned that we got to talk about this women's world title, Naomi in particular. Some not rumors, I'm going to call them, but some rumblings going around about what could be going on. Naomi gets pulled from the match on Monday Night Raw against Io Sky. And typically, someone gets pulled from a match. Oh, it's this, it's that. But there hasn't been anything concrete. Some rumblings, again, we're going to call it. Is Naomi pregnant? Is she hurt? There was a little clip of her taking a tumble off of her suitcase around the time of Monday Night Raw. So you never know what's going on. But we do know that they did pull her from that match on Monday Night Raw. So something is happening. It's also not been announced again, like I said. There hasn't been, oh, she hurt her knee, oh, this, that, she'll be out a week, she's back. I think on Monday Night Raw, this coming Monday, she might even open the show and vacate the title. I think we're in that stage. I think if it wasn't going to be that, we would have already heard more about it. So there's a little bit to get into there. There's a little bit to get into with the world title itself. What do you do? What's next? It's a shame. It seems like this always happens often with the women, unfortunately, too, where like you get somebody that's hot, they're on a streak right now, they're finally in position. You know, Rhea Ripley got hurt when she was champion. Liv Morgan recently gets hurt when she was in stride for something big. Seems like it's been happening a lot frequently. Really bad timing.
Yeah, or really great timing. You know,
Sure.
to not be the ultimate Debbie Downer on it. I mean, I know publicly she's like spoken about it. I remember seeing clips on like Total Divas of her talking about not getting any younger and wanting to have children at some point. So, if this is what they were hoping for, then great. You know, Obviously, as we mentioned, this is the escape from real life for them. Like
Yeah.
there is real life. Naomi and Jimmy Uso are real humans. They are actually married. So if that is the case, if they were trying to get pregnant, if she is pregnant, again, just rumblings, congrats to them. And obviously we wish them nothing but the best. It is crazy though that,
Family tree gets
oh,
bigger.
yeah, you're not lying. It is crazy that like the timing, you know, it this is a weird comparison right here because this isn't, I'm hoping it's not an injury. I obviously wish great health to Naomi. Naomi is red hot right now.
Yeah.
Wins the title, probably the hottest she's ever been.
Definitely.
And I almost want to make this comparison. She's the champion right now. If she's going off of TV for a bit, reminds me when Cody got hurt. When Cody first came back, he was red hot and he tears his pec and you're like, "Ah, oh, damn, like he was red hot. Now we're not going to see him." I think when she comes back, she might be nuclear. I really do. Like,
Yeah.
I think not that she was going to cool off anytime soon. We were just really like getting into the beginning of her being a heel and establishing her character. But I think it's going to be like she was getting there and then you just take it away. And now she comes back as a monster name. Like when she returns, if this is the case, it'll be a massive moment. And she's immediately into the world title picture or the WWE title picture. There are some other little aspects that we'll get to on her and the women's division. But that was my immediate thought. Like, congrats to her if that's the case, and wish them absolutely nothing but the best. That's real life. And I am sure they will have a better way of doing it than having the title inside a briefcase, and the briefcase owner opens up the briefcase and is like, "Oh wow, I'm the champion now."
Yeah, you said it. If that is the case and there is a pregnancy amongst Naomi, congrats to her and Jimmy. That's obviously something they wanted if that's the case. So great. You don't wish injury upon anybody, of course. The only plus in it potentially being an injury would be maybe a quicker return timetable. Pregnancy, 9 months plus some time after. It could be a little while before we see Naomi again if that is the case. Hell, some injuries can take you off the shelf, though, for years at a time as well, though. Again, nothing has really heavily signified anything. If it were an injury, this one ain't a work. We ain't getting Seth Rollins here. This isn't the work of the century. If it was an injury, I think we would have known a little bit more about it. It at least would have been in the dirt sheets to a point. Still probably same deal Monday Night Raw. It gets announced that we're vacating the title. But I think we would have heard some rumblings by now. Pregnancy, they maybe want to keep a little bit more tight knit because it's a bit more personal. Have her make the announcement with the fans. A lot of avenues you can go now. I do agree completely. Naomi could come back and be nuclear, could be twice as hot upon the return, even if it is a year plus out, doesn't really matter. The whole landscape of drastically in a year's time. So who knows where we will be or who will be on top at that point. But I think they have some plans in motion already. And I do want to get into that. I have a clear-cut answer in my mind about what you do with this women's world title, assuming you vacate it from Naomi. But I want to hear it from CTD first. What do you do with this world title?
Well, Clash is what? We're 2 weeks away, roughly.
I am just looking at my calendar. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. It's the end of the month, and we're in the middle of the month, so it's
I don't
like
have a calendar.
it's like 2.5 weeks, something like that.
We're getting there.
If she announced on Raw she's relinquishing the title for whatever reason, that gives you at least one more Raw to establish. You'll have the rest of that Raw and the following Raw to figure things out. Stephanie Vaquer has already got the title shot.
Correct.
She's already in there, donezo. Then you do the qualifying match of, do you do a multi-person? Do you do a couple, you know, two people face, and the winner's face? Do you do triple threat, winner's face, whatever? I think the match to make is Rhea versus Stephanie.
Interesting. Okay.
And I think, it kind of falls into that, like, when something happens, you got to deliver bigger. You know what I mean? Like, you got to one up, because that was what's promised. It falls through, you got to go up another level. I think the way I would do it is I would do multi-person match, winner's face. And in one of the multi-person match, I would have Io and Rhea in the same match and further continue their story. And maybe it's the third is Roxanne and Roxanne eats the pin, something along those lines. But whatever it is in this multi-person match, number one contender, whatever, you'll further that story. Also further Io's story with the Kabuki Warriors and a potential Asuka heel turn. Maybe even further something with Roxanne or Raquel. But I think to make it bigger than it is, you go Rhea versus Stephanie.
It's an interesting thought. We are kind of doing different math to get the same answer here. It's all about forwarding the stories. To me, I think the match is Stephanie versus Io. I look at it in a sense of, like we said, Naomi is hot right now, probably the hottest act in women's wrestling. The only person right now in my mind that would combat that, maybe be hotter, would be Io. Io is on fire right now. Rhea is always going to be top of the food chain, don't get me wrong. So it's easily an acceptable answer. But current Rhea, current Io's stepped up a bit. She's kind of surpassing that level of nuclear, not heat, but hot. Io versus Stephanie, great matchup. Rio versus Stephanie, great matchup. I do think there could be some sort of, multi-woman match, regardless of how we get the opponent for Stephanie. And this is nothing against Stephanie. I've said in the past, Stephanie's the woman that if you're ever going to put the rocket on somebody, if you're ever going to put a strap on them like you did Sheamus back in the day, 100 and something days, Stephanie might be the one. But I think there's a slower avenue for Stephanie too to kind of get there. She can be utilized in the stories, but I don't know if putting the title on her right now, considering all factors, is the answer. I think if you put the title back on Io, you have the story of Io Rhea as well. You can play that out again. You have Io Asuka. I think you have enough of a time frame where it's almost unfortunate that Survivor Series is going to be War Games this year, considering these storylines. Because in my head, I can almost map it out where Io wins the title against Stephanie. Io's champion again. Her and Asuka are at odds the entire time. I think they can pull some foolery here, and Asuka's going to turn heel this entire time. Ends up being Io that turns heel, even potentially. She ends up getting so fed up with Asuka. I still think the route is Asuka turning heel on Io, but I think Survivor Series, you set yourself up for a one-on-one Io Rhea rematch. And then that's where you can have Asuka come out, turn heel, whatever happens. Maybe Rhea wins the title, maybe she doesn't. But regardless, you have Asuka versus Io being kind of at the helm of that. That is kind of the next match to build, in my opinion, with Naomi out, is the Io Asuka match. And you can use Io Rhea to get there again. It doesn't need the title, Io versus Asuka. I'd like it to have the title, though. That's why I think you should put the title on Io at, say, Clash in Paris. But I can see a world, too, where you have the title go on Rhea. Io then takes the title off her, or Asuka, or whatever. There's a little bit of a way to elongate this now to get to, say, the Rumble, Chamber, Mania, and so on. Again, I feel like War Games being a Survivor Series almost does the women's world title picture a disservice now. If you flip it to SmackDown, the women's WWE Championship, just the women's division over there, I don't really see them getting a War Games match either. Like, it doesn't really fit the bill. War Games just seems to be Io, Rhea, Asuka, Stephanie's in the mix somewhere there, Kairi Sane. That mix of women seem to get it. So there's another PLE or two before that, don't get me wrong, but I feel like Survivor Series, Io versus Rhea for the championship, no matter who's champion, that should be the goal right now.
Yes, yeah, there's so many strong stories that don't need the title. Like they've
Yeah.
established in the last few weeks that the Io Rhea story, the title is almost secondary at this point. It's all about how Rhea can't beat Io. No matter what, push comes to shove, Io beats Rhea. So that story's so strong. And then obviously the Asuka potential turn, that's a strong story. I even look at like a Bailey Lyra, that's a strong story. Like you're establishing so many strong stories that don't have the title. They're kind of in a weird spot for me with Stephanie, where it's a good and bad thing that she did nothing since
Yeah.
winning the Rumble or the Battle Royal.
Yeah.
Like, all right, she helped Nikki Bella a couple times against Chelsea Green, and it led nowhere.
Couple
Like
backstage promos.
it literally was just worthless. Like it did nothing for anyone.
Yeah.
It's a positive and a negative. The positive is she's not tied up with anyone going into her title match to where you're like, all right, now we kind of have to shoehorn that story of, say she was feuding with Natalia. I don't know. We're picking a random person. You're not now shoehorning it to where like, oh, well, she's been feuding with this person, so you should probably have this person be the one in the match. The negative is she's been feuding with nobody. So everyone else has pretty much been tied up in stories. And it seems pretty clear that Naomi and Stephanie were going to go into a multi-week story between the two, and it was going to get plenty of TV time and have this PLE match, and who knows, maybe it leads into a second PLE match. So it's a positive and a negative with the lack of Stephanie on the show, or the lack of her in story wise since she's won that battle royal. I do think they just kind of end up putting the title on her just because it's maybe it's like when Kevin Owens won the Universal Championship after Finn Balor got hurt. That little bit of didn't see this coming, thought it was a little early, but I'm not mad about it. Let's see where this goes. I know she has plenty of time and she can feud with literally anybody. They're all fresh feuds. But yeah, it just kind of feels like a bit of a shakeup. One thing I did want to touch on though, if Naomi is out for a long time, we know we're gonna get the Jade Bianca one-on-one.
Yeah.
That really delays, maybe even fully kills the triple threat that we thought we'd get at some point.
Yeah, I still think in a world where Naomi shows up on Monday and says, I'm good to go, I still think the triple threat at potentially Mania 42, Bianca Jade Naomi is the route. Potentially killed. If it is, Bianca Jade one on one is likely the case for Mania. Stephanie, again, incredible talent. So hot right now as well. One of the best women going. So many fresh feuds. I do see a world where you could put the title on her, but I also kind of feel in the scenario of Naomi getting the title vacated, there's other feuds that are maybe a step above Stephanie right now that you can put the title in the mix of. Putting the title on Stephanie at Clash in Paris would be a great moment. Don't get me wrong. The fans would love it. The Paris crowd is always insane. But I feel like it would be a little bit almost like the Julia US title win. It's almost a little forgettable in comparison to how you could build the eventual Stephanie moment of her winning the championship. I think Stephanie's in a perfect slot to keep in the mix. Stephanie might be the one to win the title at the Rumble, hell, at Mania, even. I think keeping the title within the mix of like Rhea, Io, Asuka, the three multi-time champions, they're kind of like the trio, the helm of the women's roster on Raw right now. Having Stephanie in the long run be the one to overcome one of them, I think does a greater good for Stephanie. It's a little early to predict the Raw women's division for WrestleMania. Again, Jade Bianca seems pretty easy, but there is a world where Stephanie and Rhea face one-on-one at Mania. That seems like a Mania match to me. I don't know if they want to waste that. Not that it's a waste, but I don't know if they want to use that yet at Clash in Paris.
So I just did a quick run through of the Raw roster, and if Stephanie were to win the title, she's probably feuding with Roxanne and or Raquel.
100%.
Because
Yeah.
like the quick run through, Zoe Stark's hurt. You have Becky's the IC champ feuding with Nikki Bella. Bailey and Lyra's a story right now. Rhea, Io are kind of paired, but then also the Kabuki Warriors get into that mix. That could end up being a tag match at some point. Like who knows? But they're all kind of intertwined together. That's pretty much the division with Naomi
Yeah.
now out. Like there's
Maybe
yeah,
Nile not
yeah,
doing a whole lot.
yeah, Liv is hurt, once
Yeah.
Liv comes back, but when she comes back, that's more of a Roxanne Raquel story. And then I can't imagine they're going to skyrocket Maxine Dupree or Natalia into a world title story right now. That's the Raw Women's division. So, granted, they could just pull someone from SmackDown like they have in the past, but it's like, does that help or hurt Stephanie's odds? Because even if Stephanie doesn't win the title, who the hell does she even feud with not for the title? Like, how does she even get on TV if she's not facing like Roxanne and Raquel? Like, everyone else is pretty much tied into stories.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot weighs on honestly the Liv return as well. Liv returns and is likely feuding with Roxanne, Raquel, Dom to some degree. Maybe not feuding. Maybe they draw it out a little bit, but that's going to be the story. Win the title or not, Stephanie feuding with Raquel and Roxanne seems like that's on paper already. I can also see a world where, that fits the bill of just the cross promotion with AAA right now. You got Dom potentially going to be the champion over there. Who knows? Maybe Stephanie gets mixed up and they start using her as well. That's all just spitballing, but where else does she fit in? Again, I mean, I can see a world where, the Kabuki Warriors are teaming up against Io and Rhea or Rhea and Stephanie for a while. Maybe a third woman gets in the mix and there's a six-woman feud of sorts going on. Again, this is a slow build to War Games. So if I'm going to book that off the top of my head right now, it's probably the Kabuki Warriors, Roxanne, Raquel. Maybe Liv is back by then and joins that front versus Rhea, Stephanie,
Io.
Io, two other, who knows who you throw in the names. But that seems like, again, we've talked about this in some recent videos we've done. The main PLEs, the Rumble, the Mania, SummerSlam, Money in the Bank, sure, Survivor Series, sure. It's all kind of build to those PLEs. They can be the middle of some storylines as well. Don't get me wrong, but those are often like decision makers in the PLEs prior. Totally not what we're talking about. But I would be baffled if Seth Rollins loses the World Heavyweight Championship at Clash in Paris. You gotta have a new women's world champion, though. So it does freshen up some things, sure, but we're still just building to the inevitable war games at this point in time.
There is a chance, though. Yes, Rhea and Io are probably the most likely to slot in and face Stephanie for the world title if Naomi is out. There is a chance that Roxanne's win on Monday, pinning Io, is the first setup of Roxanne's going to face Stephanie. She's still young. She could eat a pin. It'll be a great match. You kind of just move on, then start the feud of Stephanie versus Roxanne slash Raquel. I'm not saying that's the route, but since they canceled the match on Monday, Io was supposed to be getting the title shot. They obviously know it's a possibility or are already planning for no Naomi. To have Roxanne get that big win, that should not be overlooked. That there's a genuine shot. We might just get Roxanne winning whatever match it may be, whatever multi person match, whatever. And it's Roxanne versus Stephanie.
Yeah, if that's the case, the stripe's going on Stephanie. No shade against Roxanne again. She's one of the top women talents, but she's like 14 years old or something. I don't know. She's got time. She'll get there eventually. No shade on Roxanne. Again, a great talent, but there's some time there. Again, a lot of these women look at Tiffany right now. Again, a great talent. Big Tiffany fan. Debuts at the Chamber. Crowd is erupting for Tiffany. She's been champion. She's had a pretty good run as champion, despite what people want to think. She has beaten former champions, beaten top talent. Hell, a Mania win over Charlotte Flair doesn't happen too often. And now people are hating on Tiffany. People are calling it dry. I'm not calling it dry necessarily, but even I'm of the realm of, all right, let's move it along. Let's get the title on someone else. I feel like sometimes you jump the gun a little too early with some of these wrestlers. You can slow roll the women like you're slow rolling a lot of the men. Braun Breaker had a couple years of establishment in NXT and on Monday Night Raw, two-time IC champ, and now he's kind of a henchman to a guy like Seth Rollins, but he's the future. Roxanne is somebody that you can slow roll to be the future, not necessarily the now. This is maybe a hot take in a way, but do you call up like a Jordan Grace post the Blake Monroe feud? Is that somebody you insert into the Raw Women's division? Is that somebody you get in the War Games match? I would like to imagine they probably want to put the NXT Championship on Jordan Grace. So I don't predict it happening, but I also don't predict Jordan Grace having a 9-month NXT title run, whatever it may be. I predict her kind of winning it to have the accolade and then eventually getting the call up because clearly she's ready to go. Does the loss of Naomi warrant a call up like that?
It might. I mean, I don't think they'll rush anything.
Mm-hmm.
You also got to think too, Naomi is a heel, so not saying you have to replace a heel with a heel. Does Raw need her as much as NXT needs her right now? I think I'd probably argue NXT needs her a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just because Raw, like this is, I mean, we've beaten this dead horse before. Like this is the best women's division
In the
ever.
world,
Like it
ever.
is like the talent that they have. When we were running through the stories that they have, they're all great story. Like they're all great wrestlers. Like there's so much talent going on. So I don't know if I'd call it a panic, but you could absolutely see the route. And you know, I'm not even going to predict when this draft might be because at this point, who knows if it'll even fucking happen.
Yeah.
But you are one or two feuds away from needing some refreshers, especially for the Raw women's division. Bianca's probably back on SmackDown soon, and that'll help things over there. But even then, their US title feud is,
Dry.
kind of repeating itself. We look at Raw, it's like, all right, Lyra can still feud with a lot of people, but Bailey's feuded with a lot of these people. Becky's feuded with a lot of these people. Rhea and Io have been feuding forever. Even when Liv comes back, like she's feuded with all of these people for plenty of time. So I think a shakeup time would be the best for a Jordan Grace. but she's similar to Roxanne. Like you insert her, and she's fresh for everyone. And now she can
Yeah.
face absolutely anyone, and it's a fresh matchup.
Yeah, it is fresh. And that's again, my line of thought is maybe targeted towards war games right now, and there's a potential bad blood taking place in between Clash in Paris and war games, it seems. We'll get into that too, don't get me wrong, but we just kind of laid out the potential women's war games. Judgment Day, Raquel, Liv, potentially Liv, Roxanne, Kabuki Warriors take on Io, Stephanie, Rhea, and who else though right now?
It'll probably be Alexa and Charlotte.
That's fair. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably where it fits the bill. And they're tag team champions, so I guess the brand split for them doesn't really make a big deal
Yeah.
regardless, which, again, I've always been a fan of the brand split. I never liked even the women's tag team champions crossing over brands because it just kills the brand split. But that seems likely if you were to ask me. A little thrown together, sure, but again, you don't wish injury or anything on someone like Naomi. Again, maybe it's some great like a pregnancy for her, but at least this happens a couple months out from war games and not a month before war games. So they have time to potentially establish how all these women get together for that match. But the main focal point really is still just Clash in Paris, the women's world title itself. We're going to have a new champion. Maybe it's a former champion, sure, but that title, you can do something special with it now. The Naomi cash in, all that, her winning the Money in the Bank to begin with, that was a special moment for the women. You have a way to kind of upgrade that even right now. You have a moment where you can double down and do something that is potentially even more electric. And maybe that is putting the title on Stephanie. A little too soon, maybe, but it's got to be Stephanie, Io, or Rhea. There's no other option.
Completely agree. And speaking of Clash in Paris, I mean, we said very quick before matches even got made, we're like, this is going to shape up to be a really good card. And it is shaping up to be a really good card. You have the four-way for the world title. We'll see what they do with the women's world title, but Stephanie's involved. It's already good. You have John Cena versus Logan Paul. You also have a rumored match. That's not confirmed, but starting to gain a lot more traction that we'll get Roman Reigns in a singles match against Bronson Reed, which I've seen some like hot and coldness on it. I love it.
Yeah, it baffles me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that is fantastic. I would be like, my jaw would fracture from hitting the ground if you told me Bronson Reed's going to win that match. Like, I would be literally stunned. But man, I love it. Like, that is a stacked PLE.
Stacked PLE. And it's been the last year or two where these not main 4 or 5 PLEs have been pretty stacked, despite them being against most people's want of 10, 12 matches. They're 5, 6 match PLEs, which again, we're bigger fans of these lesser match PLEs. You get more time for each match. Each match means a little bit more. Roman versus Bronson Reed makes a whole lot of sense to me. I would also be startled, almost, I'll put it, if Bronson were to win that match. But there is a world where it could happen, considering Braun Breaker and Seth and all the madness going on. Seth, again, has a match on the same night, too. So I imagine he's not totally involved. I'm 99.9% positive Roman comes out with the win there. Bronson can take the L2. It's not the biggest deal. Braun Breaker's the guy that you don't want getting pinned for a while out of both of them. And I love Bronson Reed. I've been a big Bronson Reed fan for a long time now, but he can take the L to a guy like Roman. It's not the biggest deal. I can see it ending in a DQ of sorts. Yeah, I think there's many ways it can go. But in the world where Bronson Reed just hits 6 tsunamis and wins, that would be kind of electric, if I'm being honest. That would be kind of nuts. And that would really be the move to level up Bronson to the point where you look at him like Braun Breaker, where he can't take a pin. This guy's elite. He's the future. They both are the future right now. They really are. These are future world champions, in my opinion. But Bronson, or Braun Breaker, I should say, how is there 2 guys named Bronson in wrestling history and they happen to be at the same time in a faction together? It's not like they were all named Chris, and there's Common. But Braun
Vince would
Breaker
never let this happen.
would never let this happen. Oh, my God. He would have been Rex Steiner name change immediately. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bronson Reed, though, has been held above, a little bit above Bronson Reed. I don't even know what the fuck I'm saying anymore. But, he's always been kind of held
Braun Breaker held a little bit
above Bronson Reed, And maybe there's an avenue here to get Bronson to an equal level with Braun Breaker.
I'm glad you said that because we obviously are big Bronson Reed fans. When Heyman was introducing them on Raw, don't get me wrong, what Bronson Reed is doing is awesome.
Awesome.
Him taking the shoes, the Shula Falas,
Yep.
I love it all. But when Heyman was introducing them, to go from introducing Braun Breaker as a future main eventer of WrestleMania to then going to Bronson Reed and it's like, yeah, if he didn't have Roman's shoes, I would just say this guy's big. Like you know what I mean? Like it felt like give him more love. Like
Yeah.
this is also a future main eventer. This guy fucking rules. This is just because I love both guys. Like not that they are lessening Bronson Reed, but like to us, this is a three-man faction, and they're like Seth and the other two are just right below, just a
Yeah.
hair below. WWE is treating it Seth, Braun Breaker, a little bit of a gap, and then Bronson Reed. It's like I
Yeah.
get it, but come on,
There,
future made it
there's
better.
there's always kind of a hierarchy to these factions. So I do get it, but absolutely a future main eventer. I mean, mark my words, there's some other great talent, don't get me wrong, but Bronson Reed is the best big guy in a long damn time. Braun Breaker is an incredible talent, but he's not the big guy. He doesn't fit the build of super heavyweight on WWE 2K. Brig Bronson Reed is a hell of a talent. I would like to see a little bit more for him. I don't think he's going to beat Roman. We've said this before. I'm going to say it again. Post Clash in Paris, you got to get the tag titles on them. You got to get moving on that. I think it's time to establish them maybe in a separate feud. They're still involved with Division. Seth, of course, obviously, but it's time to start having them maybe on their own path towards gold. Take the tag titles off the Judgment Day. I don't quite know what's next for a guy like LA Knight. I think he'll have a great moment at Clash in Paris, but I don't think he's going to walk away with the championship. That would be a hell of a moment, though, if he did. I'm honestly not opposed to Seth kind of losing it to a guy like LA Knight. LA Knight shortly flips it back to Seth, just to kind of get that moment for a guy like LA Knight in that Paris crowd. But it does kind of hurt the run of Seth Rollins right now. So I could see why they wouldn't want to do that.
I completely agree on the tag titles, though. Like we love the Judgment Day.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
They're
barely even
tag
on.
champions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they're
Yeah.
barely even on. They had a backstage segment. Like there's the New Day crying about not being the tag champs is getting like more TV time right now than the actual tag champs, which don't get me wrong, love that as well. But if we put the tag titles on a Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, like at the very least, these guys are on like 4 to 5 segments a
Show.
show.
Yeah.
So at the very least, those titles are going to be there quite often. And you get the picture of Paul Heyman holding the tag titles as, both guys stand there in their suits and Seth Rollins has the title around his waist, whatever. I love that. You mentioned Bad Blood, which seems to be the PLE that is coming. And it is rumored to be on the same day/night as All Out. And it is also seeming to be the night we get Brock Lesnar versus John Cena, with Brock Lesnar's rumored dates. I think it was like September 12th and September 19th, something like that.
Something like that. Yep.
And then Bad Blood fits in right about there. It is kind of interesting that, you do this big moment and then just kind of have to wait a bit. We'll talk about the WWE AEW aspect in a second.
Mhm.
But this big of a match, I kind of like it in a weird way. Like I wanted to be mad that it's like, oh, Brock comes back and then he's not going to be there for a month and a half, whatever, and then he'll show up and they'll have the match. I wanted to be mad, but then I'm like, all right, Clash in Paris is already insane. You don't need Cena versus Brock on that card. You put Cena Brock on this potential bad blood, sorry, which that is a bad blood feud, so it would fit the PLE name. And it also elevates those smaller PLEs, as we've talked about, to where, all right, this is now massive. Just like how Backlash, which normally wouldn't be as big, had the last ever John Cena versus Randy Orton match in St. Louis. This would get kind of that same type of feel. So I wanted to be mad at it, but I just can't be.
You know, it's Brock Lesnar. He returns at SummerSlam, electric return. Anybody that thought he was going to be showing up on SmackDown the week prior or the first PLE, like, you're tripping, if I'm being honest. Could he have? Should he have? Sure, maybe. That's up for debate, but it's not necessary, to be honest. Like you said, to book him on the Clash in Paris card. I'm not sold that he's not there. I can see a world where he goes after John at Clash in Paris, but for
You
that
think
to
he's flying to
happen,
Paris?
that's where I was getting. For that to happen, I was literally going to say it would, one, the John Cena match would have to main event. It's not going to main event. And two, Brock would have to get to Paris. I don't think he's going to Paris. So unlikely, but there's a 1% chance, there's a
Yeah.
chance, as Jim Carrey would say. But Clash in Paris doesn't need a Brock match. Bad Blood doesn't have any matches yet. So we don't know what else is going to be on that card. It needs a match. It is a Bad Blood feud. Brock Lesnar versus John Cena fits the bill for that. John Cena's retirement match not long after in December. I don't know the bookings. I imagine there's a Boston show or something and he's going to retire in Boston. That just seems to fit the bill. I don't think Brock is the guy he's retiring to. So when else are you going to do it? You could do it at Survivor Series. They might rehash it. They might go Brock Cena too. I don't know. I don't know that for sure. I think Cena might want to get some other names in there, but fits the bill for Bad Blood. As you said, Bad Blood is looking to be booked on the same night as All Out, All In. I get them so mixed up.
I think it's All Out, right?
All Out. All In's
Cause
their summer show.
All In's the
Yeah.
stadium show, right?
Yeah, the stadium show. I get them so mixed up as all their PLEs are like the same names. But booked on the same night. A lot of controversy over that one. The IWC is on fire, pretty much, over that news.
When are they not?
Yeah, when are they not? That's, kind of the bigger point there. When are they not? To me, there's been similar, the NXT Heat Wave is the same night as Forbidden Door, whatever. I don't know. There's been similar same day, same night bookings in the past. This is the first one that is combating. I will never consider WWE booking their third in line developmental show up against a top 4 AEW pay-per-view as competition, if I'm being honest. Booking a full-fledged main roster with Brock Lesnar PLE against John Cena against an AEW PLE. Okay, maybe there's some merit there that
they did put Saturday Night's main event though at the same.
Sure, but that even still is like, that's a step above an NXT event, but it's still not a WWE PLE to that level. What has really happened on these Saturday Night's main events that has been that electric? Chelsea won the first ever U.S. title out of Saturday Night's main event. Is that the only title change we've had happen at a show like that? I don't think there's been anything too major.
Yeah.
This is the first one that really combats AEW. In my honest opinion, AEW was calling for the smoke for years. This is what you get. This is what's going to happen. They were talking a lot of shit for a long time. Hell, Cody Rhodes was talking a lot of shit for a long time over in AEW. It's been happening since they started. And now that WWE, even if they are viewing them as competition, fans want to complain about it. Isn't that good? Isn't this good? I don't understand the complaint about it. You made the point as well. You've made this point in the past. I'm watching us right now on an iPad. I got 2 TVs behind that. I got my phone right next to me. There's TVs in the other room. Put them both on. In this world of streaming, this age, 2025, you can watch both events. I've seen people online calling it petty. This is ridiculous. Oh, I know I'm watching All In, All Out, whatever the hell it is. Sure. I don't care where you watch. Watch whichever one you want. But to be like, I'm not going to watch the one show because they booked it at the same time is like, that's the tribalism right there that I can't stand.
Yeah, these people just don't watch other sports then.
Yeah,
You're telling me you've
literally.
never
Yeah.
watched 2 football games at one time? Like
Never. No,
football
not at all.
Sundays, you get 9 screens going. Like
Yeah, are you kidding me? Yeah, you kidding me? Yeah.
my attention's going everywhere. This is no different. To me, like it's just dumb. Like
Yeah.
I love wrestling. I'll always watch wrestling. I'll watch any wrestling. This is like I truly think this may be wrong. I truly think these are vocal minorities that argue this.
Absolutely.
Like, I think there is a large majority of people that are like us that don't give a fuck. Like,
Yeah.
if I want to watch both, I'm going to watch both. If I want to watch one, I'm going to watch one. If I want to watch neither, I'm going to watch neither. It doesn't matter if they're at the same time, they're at different times, same days, different months, doesn't matter. If I want to watch something, I'm going to watch it. I'm not going to fucking go crazy on Twitter about it being put at the same time, whatever. I have mentioned so many times, even when it comes to releases, as wrestling fans, we obviously want the best for certain wrestlers that we like, certain companies that we like. But as wrestling fans, we have more wrestling than ever. It is more accessible than ever. So for us, you enjoy it. You're telling me one company, both ways, they think they can compete or they think one's a competitor, whatever. So they elevate their own product. Why are you acting like that's a bad thing? Like that, we are the winners. I've seen people say
Yeah.
this, and these are the people who are probably like us who get fed up on Twitter and just finally post it out. It's like, guys, they're businesses. They're
Yeah.
always going to do petty things. They're always going to do things because they're businesses. They're going to
Yeah.
operate like businesses. If Coca-Cola sets up shop on one corner, Pepsi is going to be like, fuck that. I'm setting up shop on the other corner. We're going to outsell you. That's how businesses work. Us, as consumers, can go from one stand, take a drink of Coke, and go to the other stand and take a drink of Pepsi and enjoy both. Why not? Like, who fucking cares? Why do people fucking get so like, dude, it floods wrestling Twitter with
Yeah.
arguments and debates and opinions on like this company's petty. No, this company's petty. Who gives a fuck? You don't work for them. Who
They're both
cares?
petty. They're both petty. Have you ever noticed that there's always a Burger King by a McDonald's?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like,
exactly.
there's always one near.
Yeah,
It-
you go on the street and it's like, oh wow, Wendy's, McDonald's, Popeyes, Burger King, they're all in a row. That's
yeah, it's
crazy.
crazy. This is weird. It looks like a Street Fighter
Yeah.
game. It's where I lose my mind a little bit over it is again like the tribalism that's created. Again, you can like whatever company you fucking want. We are WWE guys when it comes down to it. I'll watch all sorts of wrestling now. Well, I'll watch AAA this Saturday. I watch TNA. I watch GCW. Watch all this shit. If it came down to it and you said you can only watch one thing for the rest of your life, me and Tyrese Halliburton are going to be hanging out,
Yep.
watching Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown. Okay, that's what it comes down to if I'm being honest. Doesn't mean there's not great talent, good things going on at all sorts of other companies. The tribalism is where it's insane to me. Wasn't it AEW that booked their show right alongside NXT when NXT was in their dark days? And then
I
NXT
think it was the other
moved
way
to
around.
Tuesdays.
I think
NXT was
NXT.
on Wednesdays and they flipped to Tuesdays right around the time of Dynamite. And rightfully so. Dynamite was especially hot when it started. There's been a downside in the numbers, sure. NXT 2.0 was dark days. Dynamite would have probably killed NXT at that point in time. So NXT had to move. But isn't that what these fans are calling out WWE of doing? To a grander scale. It's PLEs, sure. But it's just business, like you said. It's just business. If you guys think this is a one-off and they're not going to fucking do it again, I don't know what to tell you because they're building a McDonald's down the street and they're building a Burger King up the street that way. It's going to keep happening.
1000%. And guess what? As a fan, you get to watch whatever the fuck you want to watch.
Yep.
Like I don't get the like I understand being passionate and, it's kind of evolved into an us versus them for again, small minorities. These people though would have never fucking survived the Monday Night Wars. Like we
Yeah.
didn't we, were alive during it, but we were very young and it was kind of the tail end of it. But obviously social media was not like it is now.
Yeah.
These people would have literally drove themselves insane with how nuts they would have been going on social media over the shit. You want petty shit? Both those fucking WWE and WCW, from spoiling each other's shows to fucking booking similar spots to trying to take fans to making fun of one another. These people, their brains would have fucking melted if they tried to keep up with it. And guess what? If the Monday Night Wars were happening in today's day and age, you'd be able to have WCW on one screen and WWE on another screen and get to watch both Back then, you didn't have that luxury. You had to watch
Mhm.
pretty much one or the other. I just, it just blows my mind. I don't get it. I'll probably never get it. It'll probably never make sense because, again, it is that vocal minority that's just always going to be yelling about it. And who knows? Maybe it makes you feel more sane hearing these other people just go insane about it. But how is this still going on? Like, who fucking cares?
Who cares? Could you imagine though how bad the IWC Twitter would melt if Naomi just skipped Raw but showed up on Wednesday and dropped the world title in a
Yeah.
trash can or
Yeah.
something? Like it would be insane. Like I said in quote before, like I lose my mind over it. I don't lose my mind. Honestly, I find it comical. I
Yeah.
don't block anything on Twitter. I've never blocked a person in my life. There's people I see on Twitter
I
that
do.
piss me off, but it's comical to me because it's just outrageous bots, not real, vocal minority. It is funny to me, honestly, seeing these people bitch and moan about it. And here we are on a podcast bitching and moaning about it. So I guess it's hypocritical in a sense. But we're at least of a side of reason. What is there to complain about? You're getting wrestling. You like wrestling. Ain't that the point?
I think of Tyrese Halliburton was on that podcast and
Mm-hmm.
your favorite person, Ibu,
There
basically
might be
was,
one block. All
yeah,
right. Yeah.
basically was trying to set up something for Tyrese to show up on AEW, whatever, because we know what Ibu prefers. And Halliburton shut it
Shut him
down real
down.
quick,
Hard
instantly.
block. Yeah.
That goes to like what I feel, where it's like, I know plenty of people who only just watch AEW, who hate WWE. That's fine. That's your cup of tea.
Sure.
I know plenty of people who just watch WWE. Some like to the extreme, some to where they only watch the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. That's fine as well. Like, whatever you want to watch, watch. Who gives a fuck? I think back to, I'm very big on, you can change your mind. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you can watch something and like it, and then later not like it. I
I
think of
do it
how
all the time.
at one point, TNA, I watched TNA. I still watch WWE, but TNA was fucking better than WWE. And I was like, I care more about TNA right now. Probably similar to you. You loved Lucha Underground. There were some fucking dark days of WWE, which, let's call a spade a spade. AEW being around has helped WWE's product immensely. There were some times where that shit was terrible. We
Yeah.
still watched, we still kept up with it, but other companies were doing such good stuff. And guess what? If WWE started stinking up the joint and I thought it was all terrible, and AEW I thought was lighting it up, I would just be watching AEW and just keeping up with WWE. Like, you don't have to just pick one side and stick to it and be like, this is it. This is where I'm planting my flag and I will never change.
TNA is a good reference because again, TNA guys grew up watching it, loved it. There was absolutely points where it was better than WWE, and then TNA hit a wall of being the worst wrestling ever for a while. Like there was a point where I thought Impact. How do you like? How does it get worse than that? And it has in other avenues, other companies, other ways. It's just crazy. When it comes down to it again, I see it in reference to SummerSlam, I believe it was, maybe Evolution, something around then. A lot of people online coming at WWE fans. You guys are you love spot fests. You're not here for the actual wrestling, for the moments, the matches. When in other companies, you got people stabbing each other with forks and shit. Like it's the same thing. The hypocrisy is what gets me. You can love that fork spot, but you can also love the table crash and all this, all the other shit that's happening. The hypocrisy is really where like it blows my mind. How people will shit on WWE or shit on AEW or shit on TNA, shit on this or that. But realistically, it's all pro wrestling. The same exact thing is happening in the company that you love.
1000%. I also think too, like, GCW has plenty of wrestlers that I like.
Mm-hmm.
They do some stuff that I like. Then they do some stuff where I'm like, this, I've said it to you. I'm like, this just is not for me. Like,
Yeah.
it's for someone. It's not for me. I'm not shitting on it because at one point, I was rocking with it. I went to a CZW show. It doesn't do the trick for me. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like this is going to be an endless, this is never going to go away. We'll probably be 15 years into this podcast and it'll still be some fucking debate coming from people on, it'll probably be some different social media at that point. We'll probably all be fucking robots at that point. But speaking of podcasts, as we wrap things up here, Ariel Helwani, not only was he on Logan Paul's podcast, but his show, he has Karrion Kross in studio pretty much right now. So whatever they're saying, we won't be talking about in this podcast. I wanted to bring this up to you. We did do our Karrion Kross video. We did give some opinions. This is the funny part about it. And it's like, I feel delusional when I say this. I almost feel like a crazy person. But when I saw, oh, Karrion Kross is going to be on, he's going to be in studio. He just recently was on Helwani's show.
Mhm.
I saw that and I immediately thought, one would think, okay, maybe he isn't actually signed. Maybe I immediately thought this is exactly what someone who's trying to work us would be doing. Like that is, I feel insane. I feel like fucking Eddie Bravo with the conspiracy theory. I immediately was like, this is exactly what they would do if they're trying to play this long game and play us. And like, look, it really may all just end up being that Karrion Kross is not a part of WWE. But as we talked about in that video, this is the shit I would be doing if he was a part and you were trying to play us. Like this, I can't let it go. I think I have to see him. I think it's got to go like 2 years. I mean,
Yeah,
it
no,
has to go like
literally.
two
Yeah.
years before I'll accept like, okay, he's not in WWE.
Yeah, you could hit 1 year, 11 months, and he returns and be like, oh, they got us, the
Yeah.
whole time. They waited that long to do it. I completely agree. I believe I sent the notification in our little Twitter chat. Oh, Karrion Kross is going to be Helwani. And it's also not, I don't think they promoted it as Killer Cross is going to be on there too. Whatever. I don't want to read too deep into little things, but it's exactly what I would do if I wanted people to think I did not sign or I'm not going to resign, whatever. Again, go check out our Karrion Kross video. We talked a bit about the whole situation, but there is a world where he's not signed and he's going to resign, and there's a verbal agreement, or there's this or that. There's so many possible avenues here. It just, again, seems outlandish. How much could Karrion Kross really cost? It seems outlandish to not keep the guy when he's gaining the reaction he's gaining. It is funny too, because we were just talking about the vocal minority and stuff, and you know, Twitter online 6 months ago hated him. Now they love the guy, and it's back and forth. It's back and forth. The crowds love the guy. The crowds loved the Brock Lesnar return. The crowds love this. The crowds love that. It's what happens in the arena. That's what their focal point is. The online, sure, there's a point where you chant, "We want truth back" enough, they'll bring him back. But that translated to TV as well. It's very obvious the people want Karrion Kross. They want him on WWE. The majority will call it. It just seems outlandish to get rid of the guy unless there's some story you're trying to tell here. And I think that's what they're doing. It, again, has to hit a 2 year mark for me for them to go, oh, they got us, man. He's gone. He actually left. It's crazy.
The perfect example of what you're saying though is Jey Uso. Like
Yeah.
the
Yep.
Brigade Online, you would think Jey Uso quite literally is the worst wrestler on the planet and no one cares about him. And
Yep.
then when I was live doing the pre and post show, I mean, it was nuclear for Jey Uso. His entrance was insane. All the little kids are in Jey Uso merch, like more than Cena merch. Like it was like, oh, this is reality. Like that's, I'm away from the vocal minority. Like this is what they're seeing. This is why they're making these decisions. Karrion Kross, I was gonna mention like, oh, we're not gonna have any quotes that he has from Helwani's show. There's nothing he could say right now
Yeah.
that's gonna change my mind. Like I this is maybe bad. I've never seen the show Always Sunny, but I do think of the GIF
Hot take.
of Charlie Day. I know I'm wearing
Yeah.
his Philadelphia fucking Eagles shirt. I know.
Yeah.
Of Charlie Day where he's like in front of that bulletin board and
Yeah.
he's like going insane. Like every single one of his quotes, it would be a waste of time for me to be like, oh, he said this. He called Triple H world's biggest bitch and he hates him and he says he fucking wants to fist fight him, whatever. I'm gonna be like, That all points back to here that
Yeah.
they're working us. I swear. Like, I don't know. Maybe my guard is just so up after this Rollins injury. It literally does not matter what Karrion Cross could physically sign a New Japan contract on Helwani's show right now.
Yeah.
And I would be like, fake.
Yeah, I mean, he could sign that contract, and I'd be zooming into the corners like those
Yeah.
memes, like look up top, look down. I'm like, where's the WWE logo?
Yeah. 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 Where it's like check bottom right, and then you go to the bottom right, and it's like check description. You go to the description, and it ends up just saying like Jesus loves you or whatever. That's what TikTok fucking normally ends up being. Uh, but as we tail things together, we have SmackDown coming. We will give our SmackDown recap as usual. It's kind of interesting now, SmackDown, so quickly we've got the story set for Clash in Paris, which is kind of nice, but also at the same time, it's like, all right, let's start thinking of other things where it's super interesting. I'm obviously interested in Drew, Cody, Cena, Logan. We don't need 20 minutes the next 3 weeks, whatever. Like they can pretty much just have the match because we know that match is what it is. I really kind of am looking at the tag team division because that's where the newest, all right, MFT's in the mix. The Wyatt Six had a promo. They haven't been on yet since their SummerSlam win. What?
I'm laughing because during this, I didn't check my phone, but my brother sent me his looks like his fantasy football team. I didn't read the team yet, but alongside the team, I don't know if it's going to reflect. I was sent the Charlie Day team with all the boards.
Oh, it's perfect. We live
That's
in a
perfect.
simulation, so
That's
that's
funny.
that's the way it all goes. But as we wrap things up here, there is some aspects of SmackDown to look forward to, even though Clash in Paris seems to be pretty much set.
Yeah. Clash in Paris seems to be set again, 5, 6 match card. Doesn't need to be crazy. Stellar card. There's nothing to complain about. If you're, it's also not booked alongside AEW, so you got nothing to complain about. If you're not watching, people might not want to hear this, but if you're not watching, you're not a wrestling fan. There's no reason to not go watch that show if you enjoy professional wrestling.
Oh, last thing I got to mention before we go. I've seen some random Seth Rollins slander. Again, vocal minority. I know that. But like I see some people that are now saying like Seth Rollins wrestles like a guy impersonating a good wrestler. It's like what fucking fantasy land are we in now where people think Seth Rollins isn't good and shit? Like what the fuck has happened to humanity?
We're making things up. I've seen a lot about the Vision being like a predictable stable and things like that. Oh my God, this is the most boring stable ever. You were not here for the dark days. You truly were
No.
not. You were not here for purple shirt Cena, orange shirt Cena. I can't keep going on about it.
Yeah. And also the Raw on Netflix right after SummerSlam did one of the biggest numbers Raw has done on Netflix. And who is the champion going into that show that people were going to hear from? Mm, I, don't- I don't know.
I don't know. I don't even remember.
I don't know.
I
I don't
don't know.
watch Raw.
I don't even
Uh,
either.
Subscribe or you're a coward and I hate you. And I wish you nothing but the worst, ill will. I hope you get severe case of diarrhea. One of those where it's like where you wipe and it doesn't feel like you've even wiped and you stand up, you're going to put your pants back on and you're like, "Oh, God, this hurts."
You
Oh, and you
know,
got to shuffle your way out. I hope it's that times 10.
bad enough that you better know how to Shawn Michaels kip up out of your bed and sprint to that
Oh,
bathroom.
at point 0.2 seconds, full clothes off, no choice, body sweats, nothing but the worst. Subscribe, turn on notifications, follow us on socials. You got anything else, Snowden?
Bye.